Love. We're talking about love in the last couple, 3 weeks, talking about love specifically out of 1 Corinthians 13. And it's not just there. The Bible's filled with all these places we're instructed to love. Husbands, love your wives. That's in Ephesians. Christians, we're called to love one another deeply from the heart. That's mentioned several times throughout Scripture. All of us are called, all human beings are called to love the Lord their God with all your heart and all your mind, all your soul, all your strength. It's all over the place. With it being so widespread in the Scripture, it'd be a pretty good idea to get an idea what is God talking about when he uses the word love. Is it the same thing we mean when we say love? Is it a warm, gushy feeling? Is it a Hallmark card? I mean, sometimes it is. But is it typically in Scripture? What is it looking at? What does it look like? Well, Paul, the apostle, defines it really well in 1 Corinthians 13. This is the predominant word that's used throughout Scripture for the Greek, the word love, the agape love, the self-sacrificing kind of love. It just goes way beyond an emotion and a warm, gushy feeling. It goes into a commitment. And we've been looking at this the last couple of weeks. Let's just read it. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Love, this is what he says. He gives us action words. Love is patient. And you hear this all the time at weddings, and we kind of breeze through it. Yeah, isn't that cute? But no, this is big stuff. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So we've been breaking this down the last couple weeks, like I said, and looking at the broader topics in this list. And we've looked at a couple things. Love is active in the mundane. That was a couple weeks ago. We looked at how love is patient. That doesn't usually show up on a Hallmark card. My love for you is very patient. I don't know how you make that work. But it's the mundane, everyday kind of life type thing. I'm going to be patient with the things about you that irritate me. I'm going to be patient with you as a human being. Love is kind. Love is not rude. We looked at those things. Last week, we looked at how love is for others. It's not for me. We always think about love in the context of this is how I feel when I'm with you. This is what you do for me. This is why I love you. And biblical love is completely the opposite. This is what I do for you. This is how I serve you. I'm not going to be jealous of you. I will not be boastful around you. I will not try to make the story about me, but let it be about you. It is not proud. It is not self-centered. It's you-centered. That's a big transition for us to live, and that's what love is all about. Now, today we're going to look at another broader topic in this text. That is that love is a reflection of God. That if we look at the truth of the Scripture, that if I love someone, my life should reflect God into their lives. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. That's the phrase. We're going to boil everything down today to that one phrase. Does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Truth's a funny word. We kind of toy with that a lot anymore. We always have as people, as society, in world history. Several years ago, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey ran a help wanted ad for electronics. They specifically said they were looking for someone who was an expert using the Sontag connector. And they received 170 responses from different people, each saying they were great electricians, each saying they were experts in the field of the Sontag connectors. Problem is, there is no such thing as a Sontag connector. The Port Authority made the whole term up, seeing how many people would lie on their resume. Evidently, everybody. It's like, that was awkward. So none of them got the job. Truth can be really inconvenient at times. Truth can be painful. Truth can be enlightening. Truth is not something you can randomly change if you don't like it. It's like, that's your truth, that's my truth. I mean, you hear that, but it's not truth. If you change, truth is no longer true anymore. I put a yellow flower on our little table today, not because I thought we needed decorations, but because it's yellow. Now, you might say, that's your yellow. I call it blue. You'd be wrong. I mean, it's not blue. It's a yellow flower, actually. There's a couple of them in there. Well, no, it's red. No, it's not. That you cannot claim that as your truth because it is, in fact, yellow. No, I mean, no matter what you do to try to change it, it's still yellow. That is the truth of the matter. That's just what it is. You can call it whatever you want, but you'll be incorrect. See, love does not celebrate your blue flower when it's actually yellow. I can't celebrate your blue flower. I can't rejoice in that in your life because it's not blue. It's yellow. No matter how much you want it to be blue, it is yellow. Now, how does that work in relationships? We are really good at lying even to ourselves. Truth cuts through the lies and gets to honesty in our lives. I made some changes in my diet a few months ago and cut out flour, bread, and sugar. And within a few months, I had lost 40 pounds. I was really excited about that. I'm like, yeah, this is really going well. I lost 40 pounds. It's not really that hard. I'm just not eating some of the bad stuff I was eating before. Well, then we're getting ready for our trip to Africa to plant a church. And I thought, when we go there, a lot of the food is bread. I mean, there's just a lot of bread. And I thought I should prepare myself for the bread by eating some bread. I mean, I usually don't respond oddly to food, but I thought, just in case my system says, whoa, I haven't had bread for months, what are you doing with bread? I should eat some bread now so I don't react there. Whatever reaction, I don't know, who knows? There was an excuse to eat bread. So I started eating bread. And then I went to Africa, and I ate bread like at every meal. I mean, there was like a stack of bread for breakfast and a stack of bread for lunch. And I mean, there's bread all over the place, and we ate all kinds of bread. And then I came home, and I kept eating bread because I've lost 40 pounds. I can do what I want. Right? And then, as long as I'm eating bread, I might as well go ahead and have sugar again, too, because, I lost 40 pounds. I can do what I want. And it's a great truth to live by. I've lost 40 pounds. That is truth. Okay? Except I started doing the same things I was doing before, and I jumped on the scale this morning because I've been afraid to get on the scale, and I've gained like 12 pounds, which means I've no longer lost 40 pounds. Now, that is a painful truth for me to swallow because I've been running around saying I've lost 40 pounds. That makes me a liar. I used to have lost 40 pounds. I haven't lost 40 pounds anymore. So, I'm making some changes. And that truth, the scale in my life called me out as a liar and said, hey, if you're going to say you've lost 40 pounds, you better get back to what you were doing and lose the 40 pounds because I actually want to go beyond that and have bigger goals than just 40 pounds. But I needed that scale. I needed some type of standard that I could judge that figure to because 40 pounds, I've lost lots of weight over the years and gained it back. I mean, well, I'm not at 40 pounds now. I'm at 20-something. That's embarrassing. That's humiliating for me. I hate to even say that out loud, and now it's like on a video, and it's going to be on YouTube, and every single person on the planet watches these YouTube videos because they're thrilling, But the fact of the matter is, a scale called me out, and I'm a liar now. Makes me unhappy, makes me angry. I don't like it, but it's truth. So think, if you can, it might be a jump, think of love as somewhat of a spiritual scale in your life. A spiritual scale that doesn't rejoice at putting bread and sugar back in your diet, but rejoices with healthy choices. Matthew 7, Jesus pronounces a truth to the people who are listening to him, and it's very uncomfortable for the people. If you really look at what he said, it's an uncomfortable statement. It's a little bit embarrassing. It's awkward to hear. Could make some people angry. If you're around saying this today, even, it can make people angry. It made people angry back then. It'll make people angry today. Look at what he says in Matthew 7, verse 13. Enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide, the way is easy that leads to destruction. Everybody can pile bread on their plate. Everybody can grab a handful of M&Ms or whatever. Not that those two things are evil, but you get them. Okay? It's easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter it by it are many, for the gate is narrow, the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Jesus is saying, if you really look at what he's saying here, there's a wide road, there's a narrow road. He's saying most of the people we know, the most popular road to travel is a lifestyle that will lead to destruction. Now, he's not just saying, oh, you're going to get overweight and have a heart attack. He's talking eternal destruction. That's what he's talking about. We are spiritually on this wide path. Most people, because it is the easy way to live. Just do what you want. Live how you feel. Identify however you want. And it just doesn't matter. There's no real truth. And Jesus says, actually, there's a narrow road. Truth is, it's a harder way to live, and few will choose to follow that road. And the Bible tells us over and over again throughout Scripture that the most loving thing a person can do for someone else is to help them get off that path of destruction and help them get on to the path that leads to life. Actually, that's the core of our name. That's really what it came from. We want to help people get on the path to God. That was the idea of that there's a path, there's a narrow path. That's help people get on the path. And we just called it Pathway Church. We used to live in Atlantic, Iowa, and here's just a little map to give you a little bearings. The highway, Interstate 80 is on the north there. Highway 6 is on the bottom. There are three main roads that come into town of Atlantic from the north. One on the west, one on the east. And there's one in the center that hits the Highway 6 on the bottom. Our house is 507 Olive, which is exit 57, if you're into that. Goes right into Atlantic, Iowa. In fact, we have a picture from Google Maps of our actual house. That's where we lived for 11 years on Olive Street. If you keep going up that road, you're going to hit I-80, which makes Olive Street a very busy road. There's lots of car traffic. Everybody coming off the highway takes Olive Street and they drive by our house. Semis all day long and all night long drive by our house. As you can see, it's not a huge house, it's a small house. So we knew when semis drove by because the windows would rattle and shake and the house would shake, and we're like, okay, this is it. We're finally going to lose our roof. It was just that type of setting. And so that was our house. We lived there when Shanna was in preschool. And we moved here when she was like 4 years old. So she was a youngster when we lived there. And Shanna's a funny girl. She's the one getting married this week. For those of you who don't know her, she would periodically get this wild, crazed look in her eyes. She'd be just doing something, but then you could tell her mind started racing. She's thinking about doing something unusual. And then she would suddenly jump up from whatever she was doing and go grab whatever else she was thinking about and do it. It's just the way she was wired. She was put together that way. She's a very creative person, so she often was thinking of crafty things, or maybe she'd run and get a coloring book or paint or who knows, yarn, and she had some wild things. She just always had wild things that she was thinking in her mind, so you knew something was about to happen. Now, to this day, we don't know why she did this as a young toddler, 2, 3, 4-year-old, but she would get this wild look in her eye, and she would jump up from the living room, run out. You can't see the side door here, but to the left of our screen, there's a side middle door. She would run out that side door and go sprinting toward the street. All right? That's not safe. That's not healthy. That's a destructive path that she was on. We have no idea why she would do that. And we would have to drop whatever it is we were doing, and we would have to chase after her, because if we didn't physically stop her and pick her up, and that's about usually where we would catch her. And one of these days, she was going to get hit. There were times it was that close that we're like, running up between those two trees, a guy in a semi might not even see her, and we'd be planning, little Shanna's funeral rather than little Shanna's wedding. It's a whole different story could have happened there. And here was our dilemma as parents. Running toward the street made her happy. You should have seen, that was kind of the look on her face. I mean, she loved it. It was the greatest game ever. It gave her a thrill. Running toward the street was an expression of her true self. It was exactly how she was put together by God. But as parents who loved her daughter, we were genuinely frightened she would die. What do you do with that? It was entirely possible that the time would come when maybe I wouldn't be quick enough to run out the door. Maybe I wouldn't quite hear, because all of a sudden we would hear the door and think, is that Shanna? And I'd have to take out the yep, sure was, and I'd have to get her. What if we didn't hear the door? What if one of us, or whoever was home, was sick and we couldn't get up, or in the restroom, or whatever? I mean, who knows? Anything could be going on, and we didn't see her before she jumped out between those two trees and ran in the line of a truck. So we sat her down several times and said, what you're doing is dangerous and it will kill you. Now, she's 4 years old, and she'd open those little bright, wild blue eyes of hers, and in so many words, she would basically say, you have no idea what you're talking about, Mother and Father. This is the greatest game ever. You don't understand how much this completes me. You don't know how happy this makes me. I'm made for this. But guess what? Just like the rest of us, her true nature was going to kill her. I mean, it just would have. If it wouldn't have stopped. That's probably why we really